Good morning, everyone. My name is MightyStream, and today is October the 12th. I greet you this morning. I hope that you're doing well. I'm looking forward to doing your Just for Today in a meditation for you. I'm brought to you by Hope Through Navigation, and this is our H.O.D Recovery Services. You can reach me at recoveryofhope21@gmail.com. Let's go ahead and get right into our meditation. I'm excited to see. Okay, October 12th, being right. When we admit that our lives have become unmanageable, we don't have to argue our point of view. We no longer have to be right all the time. And that is taken from the basic text, page 58. Nothing isolates us more quickly from the warmth and camaraderie of our fellow NA members than having to be right. Insecure, we pretend to be some kind of authority figure. Suffering from low self-esteem, we try to build ourselves up by putting others down. At best, such tactics push others away from us. At worst, they draw attack. The more we try to impress others with how right we are, the more wrong we become. We don't have to be right to be secure. We don't have to pretend to have all the answers for others to love or respect us. In fact, just the opposite is true. None of us have all the answers. We depend upon one another to help bridge the gaps in our understanding of things. And we depend upon a power greater than our own to make up for our personal powerlessness. We live easily with others when we offer what we know, admit what we don't, and seek to learn from our peers. We live securely in ourselves when we cease relying on our own power and start relying on the God we've come to understand in recovery. We don't have to be right all the time, just recovering. Just for today, God, I admit my powerlessness and the unmanageability of my life. Help me live with others as an equal, dependent upon you for direction and strength. Let's take a moment of silence, followed by the wee version of the Serenity Prayer. Moment of silence now. Thank you. God, grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things that we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Just for today, please and thank you. You know, what a beautiful meditation. We don't always have to be right. And I think by now, if you're on this YouTube channel and you're listening on a regular basis, you have heard me tell plenty of stories of how wrong I was. The difference of being wrong and having to be right, the difference for me is the spiritual principle of humility. And the way that I got to a point where I could accept that I was wrong and not right, or that I didn't have all the answers, or that I wasn't the spiritual guru that I thought that I was, that my relationship sometimes with my higher power, the God of my own understanding, wasn't always a two-way street. A lot of the times I couldn't track God And because I couldn't track God, I refused to trust God. And I would go out on self-will, right? Instead of God's will. I've shared plenty of stories, but the way that I developed in that area and began to become more, I want to say more humble, but that's not quite what I'm trying to say. The way that that spiritual principle of humility was able to start taking root in my life. And it's like a beautiful tree that is still growing day by day by day, and the roots are getting deeper and deeper and deeper, which means that when the storms of life come, I don't always put myself in a position of having to have the answers anymore, or having to have um, my point of view be the point of view that everyone accepts. The way that that happened is by getting into the 12 steps of the NA program and working them. When I realized that I was able to identify character defects, I began to see how they would cause me to fall short. And then I began to pick them out of my fourth step, the patterns and how I repeated things over and over and over. You know, there's a term called transference. And what transference is when an individual, no matter who they're engaging, they tend to transfer old data into the new data. They tend to transfer old relationships into the new relationship. And they continue to repeat the same pattern over and over because they do not have acceptance with the fact that the past is the past. If you failed your husband in your first marriage, and you bring all of that failure and degradation and those nights that maybe he was looking for you and you were out using, if you try to bring that into your new relationship, and it would maybe look like guilt or something, right? You would operate out of guilt. You would make sure you always, it would seem like a very positive thing. But if you transfer the relationship, one relationship into the next, what happens a lot of the time is that you're reliving the old relationship and trying to make sure you get it right in the new one. It's called transference. People do it a lot of time. A lot of the times you'll see sometimes when you're interacting with a certain person, they assume a certain posture with you. And the posture they assume with you may seem to be needlessly intense. It, generally speaking, has nothing to do with you. A lot of the time, it has something to do with the old that they're bringing into the new, and they're trying to make sure that they do it right this time, or they're trying to vindicate themselves this time, or speak up for themselves this time with you, not realizing that you don't behave anything like the person that they're in their mind thinking you are. And it's not so obvious a lot of times when people do this transference, but it happens. And so in Narcotics Anonymous, we've been given the 12 steps. These 12 steps have principles, and each step actually has way more than just one or two spiritual principles. Each one has at least one main spiritual principle. but a lot of them overlap. But when you get into the program and you start allowing people to actually speak into your life in the form of a sponsor and working the steps with them, you're able to do your fourth and fifth steps, see your patterns, right? Admit your exact nature, identify your character defects, and figure out how those character defects constantly cause you to fall short. And that's what you're looking for, right? You're looking for that because if you can identify it, if you can see it coming down the road, you don't have to repeat it. You don't have to repeat it. It's like walking down the same sidewalk and you know this little section, you always trip over it because it's uneven. And you do it day after day after day after day after day. No, most people, once you trip one or two good times over that same uneven sidewalk, you walk into the area where it's even, or you step over it. How about that? So when I'm able to see that humility is not showing itself as quickly as I need it, I have a tendency to go silent. And the reason why I'll go silent, and I think a lot of people do this, they go silent because they need to sort it out. They need to figure it out. They don't want to come across the old way, the old person, right? The person that before the spiritual principles start to take root always had to be right, always had to make a point. And so sometimes people that I personally do it, and I believe other people do it in recovery, when they're at a crux in a relationship, right? When they're at a point, a crossroads, and they know they have the opportunity to do something different based on the information that they've already processed, that old data that they've already processed, and they've been able to take the salve of recovery and put it on those wounds. What they'll do sometimes, and I'll do it, is if I'm in a situation and I can see myself coming down the road and I have a choice, I'm at a crossroads and I have a choice on which direction I can go. And I'm not really sure that I'm going to come out with the recovering individual. I will pull back. And I pull back so that I can have space and room to process, make sure I'm not involved with transference. I can process the situation and then move forward in a manner, right, that shows and displays that I am still actively recovering. Do I get it right all the time? Absolutely not. However, the point is that we don't always have to be right. We don't always have to have the answer, and we don't always have to give an answer when others expect that we should. It's okay to not engage people first thing in the morning on social media, right? It's okay not to check your emails first thing in the morning because you need some time to yourself so that you can prepare your mind, body, and spirit. Okay. So even with that, when I'm interacting with people and I feel like I may not respond the way that I will be proud of later or okay with later, right? That I will have peace about how I interacted with the person later. I can take my time before I respond. And even in my response, it may not necessarily be what they're expecting, but it's the response that I feel is the best for me, right? You've ever been around someone that they have this bullying nature, right? They're always right. They always need to express their opinion. They're always correcting you. And their relationship seems like it's just really enmeshed, like they're doing some transference, and you're not really sure why it's like that. Instead of allowing those individuals to have the power, right, to push your buttons, you don't have to be nasty. You don't have to be right. You don't have to be wrong. You don't have to be anything. You can take your time in responding. And if you choose to not respond, and not responding is going to come across as a challenge, then I would just respond with, I'll give that some thought. Let me get back to you. And you don't have to be nasty about it. You honor where you're at. Honor your process in recovery. You don't always have to be right, and you don't always have to have the answer, and you don't always have to be reactive. You don't. This meditation is helping us not to be that person. This meditation is helping us to pull back and learn how to not be in the hot seat all the time. Because a lot of times people that talk a lot, that run their mouth a lot, they say things and they do things and they're unaware as to how they're affecting other people. One clue when you're interacting with people and you're talking, one clue that you're that person is going to be more or less in their eyes and their posture. When a person is fed up with how you're coming across, there's a coldness in their eyes. There's a lack of compassion in their eyes. And I don't want to say loathing or hatred, but there's a stone cold look, a stare almost in their eyes, and their face tightens. The cheeks will come inward and the whole face will flint and become what they're trying to do without realizing it is not give you a clue that they're fed up with you. You don't want to be that person. You don't want people to get to the point where they hear you, but they're not listening because they're tired of how you're coming across. So today, let's do something different. Let's pay attention to how we're coming across. Let's pay attention to whether or not we're the only voice in the room that's talking, yet actually no one's listening. Everyone hears you, but no one's listening because they become fed up with this posture of authority or this posture of false entitlement, false authority that you've taken, that you have all the answers, that only your way is the way to do anything. Right? Don't be that person. You don't want to be that person because that causes people to pull away from you rather than pull towards you. And the only way that you will know that you have that component to your personality is to do the work. To do the work. You have to do the work, or I would like it that you would do it. You don't have to, but I believe that it would make your life a lot sweeter. Can you believe this is such a small podcast, but I have a feeling of friendship and camaraderie with individuals that I have never met just by their emails or their messages that they're leaving. Individuals are letting me know that this is something that is a part of their everyday morning meditation, quiet time. Whenever they do it, they're letting me know that they value it. You know what that says to me? That says that there's a lot of us out here that we're not engaged the way that we want to be because of life. However, where some of us have working schedules, we are just so busy, but we crave fellowship. And the podcast is allowing individuals to consider the meditation and to start thinking about their recovery again, or in a way that is showing growth for them, right? Like, okay, so MightyStream is saying that being right sometimes, having to always be right sometimes based on this meditation is the thing that can make people not want to deal with you. But also there's a way to process not having to be right. And that's about learning who you are and how you operate. What's your MO? How do you get down? What is it that you do that makes people think you're that person? That you're the one that is always having to have your way, and what is it? Do you even know? Do you see yourself coming down the road and still decide to take the same path over and over? Or do you create space for yourself to grow, to analyze it, to think about it, and change the behavior if that's what's needed? I hope that this meditation has been good for you. We can commit to ourselves and to God, that we can admit our powerlessness and our unmanageability in our life. And we can live with other people in fellowship, in equality, in inclusiveness, just by being aware of our patterns, our character defects, and how they cause us to fall short, being humble. We can do it. I believe you can do it. I know you can. I'm working on it every day. Work on it with me. I'm going to be talking to you later with the next meditation, but I also want you to be sure to have a beautiful day. Have a beautiful day on purpose. Talk to you soon.